David took over both accounts that needed this updating work, kind of at the low point in, I would say, both rankings and leads. So both accounts have been running for probably over 2 years at this point, and they had hit an all-time high in both rankings and leads, and then there was maybe like a 3 to 6 month decline from that high where rankings started stagnating and leads were dropping.
We notice that when we get into those engagements deep in, then in addition to what we have built our whole process around, which is producing these new articles to rank for new keywords, now we have this additional challenge that's, well, we got to do a bunch of work to go back and make little tweaks or just kind of analyze and see what's going on with these past keywords to make sure that none of those rankings slips, because those rankings are very important to the overall lead number. If you're generating for a client 150 leads a month and some key pieces from the past drop and that drops to 100, they notice. What do we do then? We have an engagement and an operation priced at a certain level to produce new pieces to rank for new keywords. Now, what do we do? Do we just do add-on work? Do we charge the client more? So today we want to talk about clients that have been with us for a long time and this challenge we have of how the engagement changes. Specifically, our main engagement we do for clients on the SEO and content side is to identify and rank for these bottom of funnel or buying keywords. If you're not familiar with our main engagement, you can see it literally anywhere on our site, but you could read, for example, pain point SEO. And that's fine. And the way we rank for these is by writing new articles. And these new articles, over time we have a process of like writing them really well, identifying the keyword, ranking for them, ranking for those keywords, and bringing in leads that come from these bottom of the funnel keywords for our clients. That's what they're buying, right? Is they, by the end of a year, they rank for 30 plus of these keywords on page one, and then they get a bunch of leads because they're ranking for like the most bottom of funnel stuff, and accounting software ranking for best accounting software, that kind of thing, right? That's standard grow and convert. The challenge we want to talk about today, and what we brought David on to talk about, is what happens at year 2, 3, 4, when, in addition to writing these new articles every month that's ranking for new keywords, you have sometimes hundreds of past keywords and articles that were ranking for valuable stuff. Rankings don't stay completely untouched for 3 years. Things fluctuate. Search intent fluctuates. You may lose rankings or whatever, right? Not drastically if you're doing things properly, right? It's not drastic, but a little bit, and a little bit matters. And so we notice that when we get into those engagements deep in, then in addition to what we have built our whole process around, which is producing these new articles to rank for new keywords, now we have this additional challenge that's, well, we got to do a bunch of work to go back and make little tweaks or just kind of analyze and see what's going on with these past keywords to make sure that none of those rankings slips, because those rankings are very important to the overall lead number. If you're generating for a client 150 leads a month and some key pieces from the past drop and that drops to 100, they notice. And so what do we do then, right? Because now we're basically saying we have an engagement and an operation priced at a certain level to produce new pieces to rank for new keywords. Now, what do? Do we just do add-on work? Do we charge the client more? We will describe in a bit what we have been doing and our choices, but that's the problem at hand. So, welcome to our YouTube and podcast series, David, who is our content strategist who's basically been championing this updating. We call it like updates, right? This updating thing for a few clients. Long-running, multi-year clients for which this is an issue. But Benji, I want to turn it to you first of just, is there any other context that you want to provide before we ask David to talk about his opinions on this and what his process is?
Yeah, I mean, David took over both accounts that needed this updating work, kind of at the low point in, I would say, both rankings and leads. So both accounts have been running for probably over 2 years at this point, and they had hit an all-time high in both rankings and leads, and then there was maybe like a 3 to 6 month decline from that high where rankings started stagnating and leads were dropping. And I think you came in at both the low point of both the rankings and the leads and took over running the account. One of the accounts was because someone left Grow and Convert and you took over for them. And the other was I was still running the account and brought you in at that low point just because you had just come off of the success of getting that first account to rebound on both the rankings and the leads as well. So yeah, I'd be curious then.
They both reached their new high last month, recall?
Yeah, so you took over the second one, I think in July, and so 6 months later hit a new all-time high. And then the first one, I don't, it was what, last year at this time,
I
right?
took over in December of, so what are we in? It's
So
2022.
2022 December,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And then
And
took over
then and
there.
then we hit an all-time high for them one.
That was a kind of a more nuanced one, but the same month, last month was an all-time high. Or about, yeah, of the past 10 months because they had switched reporting metrics. So it's not like a good year-over-year comparison.
Fair. Yeah, we went from reporting on UA
Yeah, to
and then
HubSpot.
to HubSpot. And so from a tracking perspective, it's not one to one.
So I think there's a couple things that we should talk about that'll be relevant to the listeners, right? And the number one thing is the challenge. Why would we even do this? And you guys are kind of talking about that now. Is just to be clear to everyone, it's not like he took over at an all-time low. All of our engagements start from 0 leads produced by Grow and Convert blog posts. That's the low. And then what happened is you get to an all-time high at some point, a year and a half plus in, and then some of those early rankings for some of, honestly, the best keywords, right? Because we're going to go after the best keywords early, because why not? If those start slipping, we dip from that all-time high. It's not an all-time low, but we dip. And the clients notice that because they're used to, up to that point in the engagement, they're used to every month basically, not exactly, but basically increasing, increasing, increasing. And then when it dips for a few months in a row, they're like, what's going on? How do we fix this? Right, justifiably so. And they ask questions like, well, why are we producing these new pieces? We used to have these rankings. What happened? Can we adjust those? And that's that predicament of now we have to do this extra work that was not sort of planned or part of the normal engagement. David, I'd love for you to talk about like when you walk in. First of all, if you have any thoughts on the way I set that up, and if you disagree with that kind of positioning of the predicament. But two, then I'm curious when you walk into these accounts, like what do you notice and what do you have to do in terms of like now so that the audience understands what kind of workload are we talking about?
The only thing I'd say about your first comment, I'm trying myself to get out of the habit of saying best keywords. We definitely target the keywords that we think are going to make the most sense at the beginning. But as the engagement goes on, we find new best. I mean, Benji and I have an example of this on the second account I took over, where we have these keywords that no one thought they were like, okay, we'll go up more high funnel or more slightly mixed intent, and then they convert really, really well. Now I know what you're saying, like the sentiment, we go after the main category, like most bottom of the funnel keywords in the beginning.
Yeah,
But I would
that's
just like,
fair.
but best is like makes the other one seem like
Yeah,
less best.
that's a
Just,
fair call out. You can't
yeah.
predict a priori what's going to be best. Yeah.
And then
Yeah, that
well,
one David's referring to, I think we published that what, like October, November
it's not
this
even like a
become.
main feature of the client, and it was one of the best converters last month. So yeah, it's just something that it's interesting. And then what's the second one? What do I think when I walk into?
So yeah, like can you describe for
Well,
the
I
audience
think
like
maybe just set up like what the problem is when you come in. So like why in your opinion why are rankings even slipping?
These are two really good examples of the accounts because they did start roughly the same time. One started January 2021, one started February 2021. And they both actually, we did different things for them. And I thought we were doing the same thing for both accounts in terms of how to save rankings, but it wasn't. We did two different things. And the kind of breakthrough moment came when we looked at the performance on the first account, account A, like at a very granular by URL level for each month. And that's when we noticed we can spot over the course of engagement, like some months, like our best converting posts were converting, let's just say like 50 conversions a month. And then now this new blow that had gone down to like 20. So we could spot that, and but the big eye opener is that their target keyword that they were ranking for, say it's accounting software, we didn't lose that ranking. So we had that number one ranking 8 months ago, and it was brought in 50 conversions. We had the number one ranking for that now, and it was only bringing in 20. And that's kind of where the conversation became like, well, we're doing our job. The post is ranking for number one. Like that's what we're supposed to do. We target this keyword, it's ranking, and traffic seems like, but then traffic's less. So then it's like, well, is it people are searching that keyword less? And that's a lot of different conversations. But what we noticed when we looked into Ahrefs was that at its best month, it was also ranking indirect. It was also ranking like to all these secondary keywords we started calling them. All these kind of similar keywords of different semantics, like accounting software, software for accountants, accounting software for small businesses. Those are some examples that could be. It was ranking in the top 3 spots for those keywords that we did not originally target, but which our post was ranking for anyways.
Yeah, so just to recap, like what you did specifically, because I think this is important to identify the issue. You looked at all the pieces so you created an Excel spreadsheet of all the pieces that we published, so like all the URLs, and then you looked at conversion by month for every single article. So this spreadsheet becomes article 1, January, February, all the months of each year, and then putting how many conversions, and then you're also looking at the ranking position too. And so what you're saying is for some of the best performing articles, let's say that I had converted 50 times in January of 2022, now it's converting, let's say in January 2023, only 20 conversions. So there's a drop of 30, but yet the ranking position is still the same. And so on the surface, for the main keyword that we were going after, so on the surface, it looks like, well, nothing's wrong because you're still ranking in that first position, but conversions have come down. But what you noticed then digging into Ahrefs for that URL was that if you pull up all the organic keywords that it used to rank for, the reason why there are additional conversions in those prior months were because we were also ranking for these other high intent keywords alongside the main keyword that we were targeting that we now lost. And so
which we didn't even plan for.
Yeah, exactly. Which we didn't.
So I'm going to be the one, I think, in this conversation, keep bringing it back to like the business decisions and choices, because that's what the listeners are here listening for. That itself is interesting, right? It's like we promised the client, hey, we're going to rank you for something like best accounting software. That's made up. Neither of these are accounting clients. And then we do that. We maintain that, but they notice, even though we're ranking number one for that still, 3 months ago it was 50 conversions a month. Now it's 20. What's going on? And then we realize serendipitously, it was also ranking for, I'm just going to make some random thing up, best accounting software in the cloud or best accounting software in New York or something, right? And then we're like, well, we weren't even planning on going after these rankings. It was just luck. That luck has gone away. But the client's expectation is still life when the luck was there. I want that life when I was getting 50, even though that was by luck. I mean, luck is not appropriate term, right? Like, it's normal that you rank for some head thing and you get a bunch of other ones. And so then that itself, I remember us three having a discussion of being like, when you discovered this, David, you were like, okay, I figured this out. Like, there was a bunch of other stuff we didn't even plan on ranking for. We weren't even monitoring the rankings for best accounting software in New York City. Right? That wasn't on our radar, but we had it, turns out, and we lost it, and that's probably what's responsible. And then we were like, well, so what do we do? Now we optimize this piece we already wrote a while back that was basically, from a business standpoint, they already paid for, and we go back, and then we re-optimize it for those old things. So foreshadowing, that is literally what we've been doing. But there is a thing there where it's like now it takes your time doing a bunch of stuff we hadn't planned.
When we first saw this, there was to me like two really immediate possibilities of action we can take. One is what you just said, like re-optimize the existing post, right? So this post once ranked for accounting software in New York City. Therefore, it stands to reason maybe it can rank for it again, depending on how far its position had dropped, right? So like if it used to rank in position 3, but now it's like position like 70, that's maybe not a good argument. But now it's position like 12, maybe we can just look at the SERP, re-optimize, get it back. That was like option A. And the most commonly used option for sure, option A. And option B would be like if it had dropped enough, or if there was enough differences in the SERP, it would be writing a brand new post to target that keyword that we once had that loss. That was less likely to occur, but it was another option. And so the tricky part, the frustration part, if we're there, there's a few things more than just time, but it is knowing when to do that, knowing when to just to re-optimize an existing post or write a brand new post and target the keyword.
Which there's no right answer for, right? Like
No,
it's
we
not
had
like
some
we
like
know.
we made some guidelines. Like we looked at SERP similarities and we said, okay, well, like if the SERP's vastly different, that's 1 point for new keyword, article. If it used to rank for the secondary keyword and hasn't ranked for it in like 4 months, that's another point for new article. But in this specific case for this client, for client number one, because again, client number two, this actually was not an issue at all. But in client number one, most of them, like definitely 80% of them, were going to be re-optimizations of existing posts because they
And
were
how many were we talking about in client number one? When you say most of them, 80% is like how many posts?
There
how
were
many
a
posts did
lot.
we like re-optimize? I don't know. I can speak more to keywords. Like we probably re-optimized for like 50 keywords.
Yeah, it was a lot. And then, do you remember the name of that tool for the SERP similarity?
Yeah, it's on the case study we wrote. It's called Keyword Insights, and it just takes a snapshot of a SERP. It's a free tool. You get like 5 a day, and it gives you a similarity between the two SERPs. But yeah.
And then, do you remember what your guidelines were? I think it was like 70. If it was over 70%
No, it was over. If it was
similarity.
50% or more, it was a hardcore pause. If the SERP was 50% or more similar, it was like I need to change my mindset to be like I need to find evidence that I should do this because otherwise I should not. I should not write a new article.
So if it
Let me
was over
translate
50,
this so that
yeah.
Yeah.
everyone can follow, because I think we're using some acronyms and saying some of this stuff fast, and it's obvious to us. So a few things. So SERP, just for everyone, if you're just following for the business journey, that refers to search engine results page, aka the Google results, like page one, basically, of the Google results. And when David and Benji are talking about similarity, what we're talking about is there is the original target keyword we wrote that post to rank for. And in these scenarios, we're talking about rankings that have not dropped or not dropped significantly for that target keyword. Then there is some secondary keyword. We're looking at one of them at a time that we did not intend to rank for, but David discovered that we happened to be ranking for that in the past. And he's saying, well, I'm
I think it's
guessing you're
something.
saying you
I
can.
think it's something even more specific. It's basically if there were two queries that you were going after, and you were to search for query A, so let's say accounting software, and then accounting software for small business being the second query. If you were to search for both of those in Google's, how much overlap is there in the SERP of the same articles or pages ranking? That's like the SERP similarity. And so oftentimes when you search for two different things, there's some pages that rank for both of them. And so if there's high similarity, chances are you can rank for both queries with the same page. If there's low similarity, if you're seeing completely different results, then Google's basically telling you that the intent of these two searches are pretty different, and you basically need to create two separate pages to rank for each of those.
And those are the extreme examples, right? So one would be high similarity. If you have two queries and page one results are literally the same things are ranking, of course you just produce one because Google is literally showing you I'm ranking the same thing for both, right? Versus if it's there's no overlap. Page one, all 10 results are the different between query A and query B. Google's again literally showing its hand and saying, I'm not ranking stuff from A to B. It's a totally different thing. But real life, the reason we're talking about criteria, real life is of course not in those extremes. It'll be some mix What do you do when position 1, 3, and 5 are the same between queries A and B, but everything else is different? Then you're like, well, if our article was the same as that number 1 article or number 3 article, that would be very convenient. We'd only have to write one. And like they get to rank for both. But you're like, well, but what if that's because they have a lot of link building or something or whatever, right? Like, and then is it safer for us to write a second article? And then there's the client being like, of course, in the client's interest, they're like, well, if you can just rank it with the article we already wrote in the past, then just do that so that we can get a new article out of you guys this month for whatever. And you're sort of balancing those three things. Is that an accurate assessment, David?
No, it's accurate, and that's where it gets very complicated. Because what do we mean when we say re-optimize? Like, what are we doing? What, and that's different per keyword. Because, like, I mean, I'm trying to think of an example. One I can kind of think of. This is kind of made up, so more like a thought experiment example. But when you look at a keyword like how to track time off, say that's a keyword, jobs to be done keyword, right? And the intent for that has changed over the past 3 years, just like my own personal theory here, because more and more freelancers are tracking time off. So it used to be like a small business, medium business heavy keyword. Now the SERP is also full of like Clockify, like personal time tracker, track your own time. So the SERP has like the actual meaning of the word per Google has kind of changed. More than just even forget like the result of what's ranking in Google. So now the question becomes like, well, if I want to optimize for that now, and let's just say like it's more than just putting keywords in. Like my audience has changed. And so that was kind of a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like that's where things can get really fun, but also kind of frustrating. It's like trying to figure out.
It's a more substantive edit, right?
It's like,
Like
well, yeah,
if it's
what's the edit we're doing? Because like as you know, we write very like specific posts. Like when we write our posts, we target a specific audience, and we're writing to them. And now, if the SERP has changed and the audience has changed slightly, that involves changes to the intro, changes to the structure, the headers. That involves changes to the examples, right? That involves the change to what competitors you're going to include, what alternative solutions you're going to include. Now I'm going to add 3 or 4 competitors that involve time off tracking for freelancers, which I didn't do before in that example. So there is kind of like just that was kind of for most of it. The bigger frustration was like, when does a re-optimization become a rewrite? At what point is it just doing like a facelift of the existing article to make it competitive in the SERP to versus like we're basically rewriting an article?
Can you talk a little bit about the spreadsheet that you created? I think like we're talking about rewriting, but an important part in my memory of all of this is that even getting the data across 150 articles and their intended keywords, getting the data of how many conversions per month did every single article get is non-trivial. It was non-trivial back in the Universal Analytics, GA3, quote unquote, world. And now it's become even more non-trivial in the GA4 world, which GA4 makes some of this conversion attribution even more difficult. And we've had to use like third-party tools, and if a client's on HubSpot, we use that and all this. And what I remember is like most companies don't even track total conversions from blog versus homepage versus whatever. We do that. We've talked about this a bunch on our site. Maybe we can record some more videos on how we do that. But you then were like, no, we need to track it by individual blog posts across 100+ posts and by month. So it was this like matrix you created in a spreadsheet where like down the first column was every single URL of blog post, and then across the different columns horizontally across the top of the spreadsheet was month after month after month across years. So we're talking like 24 columns of months or whatever for 2 years, right? And every single cell was filled in with a number of how many conversions that had, and you basically did it manually. Like you had to look up the analytics every month and write that down across 2 years, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
How,
I
how,
mean, is
how
there a
long did that take you?
It's incredibly time consuming. And then and you tend to do it twice because now you're doing manual data entry and like being wrong is an issue, right? Because if you're saying you have 8 conversions when you have 0, you're going to look in places that don't make any sense. Um, it's very time consuming because you have to, or we do exclude. I'm sure there's somebody smarter than me, Google Analytics for sure, spreadsheets for sure, that can maybe make this simpler. But for me, this is the only way I can think of how to do it, because you have to exclude anything that's not organic, anything that came from other sources that you don't want to include, organic or paid or referrals and that kind of stuff. And then you want to, I mean, excluding like UTM, URLs and that kind of stuff. And so you just have to, I just went through and but I mean, doing that is a pain. And how long it takes, it takes a bit. I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I know it was the first time I did it for the client A, the first client. It was a few days because I didn't realize that like you have to scroll down to Google Analytics and there's more pages. So I was counting all the data for the first like 25 results. Didn't realize there was more after that. So there's mistakes involved. But I would say on average, it's a time consuming. It's a day job for sure. But super helpful. I mean, because once you get that, because that's the key. The key thing, you see so much in that spreadsheet that kind of changed the way I view, honestly, Grow and Convert and like my job at Grow and Convert. Because you start seeing like patterns, like how long it takes for a post to rank and convert. That's interesting, right? I mean, because you start thinking, now I'm really thinking in terms of conversions. Like it even changes like our link building strategy. Because I'm like, yeah, sure, this post is position 5, but it's converted the same at position 5 as it has at position 2. So I'm not going to put any more links towards this post because I can use that money elsewhere. I don't want to, this post converts the same no matter what, if that makes sense. So again, it gives you a lot of insight to the account and where to maximize growth or where not to maximize growth, like where it doesn't make sense to put your energy.
Yeah, maybe that's a good segue into account number 2 because I think the issues were very different in
They were
terms
very
of
different.
just
Account number 2 did not have. So I was all prepared, all excited. Get into account number 2. I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna look for high, uh, value. What to look for? High bind intent, secondary keywords. But when we get to account number 2, they don't have any of that. Their posts are ranking for the same keywords they've always been ranking for. There's no what we call easy wins, which is where I go into a high converting post, find a secondary keyword that had dropped off, and re-optimize for it. It didn't have any of that. So we immediately, which is where the client sees like the fastest like growth is when we get those easy wins. Instead, we went to like phase 2 of this process, which is basically using that spreadsheet to help us strategically build links and to make sure we're not focusing all of our link building efforts on just like a select few posts. And that kind of became what we did for account 2. So account 2 involved, I think if I say 50 keywords for account 1 for re-optimization, to account 2 involved 4. Not
Four
drastic.
keywords.
Yeah, four. I mean, that was it. We've done it. We did it 1 month.
And so then the reason in account 2 that conversion's been dropping is that we were just losing rankings for the intended target keyword for those 4, or what happened?
no, it was different. It was for that account there were probably 5 to 10 really high value pages. So think like the most obvious category term. So it'd be like for us, content marketing agency, putting all of our resources into try to ranking for that term. Like which for us like makes a ton of sense. Like if
No, but why did it drop?
yeah, I'm getting to that. So because we were basically putting all of the link building budget towards trying to get to rank for those pages and not putting the budget towards a lot of these other really valuable terms. And so like imagine content marketing agency is super competitive. And so you're needing hundreds of links to that page in order to get it to rank. And so all the link budget was going at probably 5 of those articles that were similar, like these really high value pages, thinking that if we can get those articles to rank, the volume's high for that keyword, the purchase intent is high for that keyword. And so like, let's just own these keywords. But because we were doing that, the link budget wasn't going to a lot of these other really valuable pages that once we started pushing links to those pages, were yielding conversions. And so it almost put the account at risk a little bit because you're putting all your eggs in one basket. And if there's dips in conversions, even like if there's changes in search behavior, or if like you move from position 1 to position 3, your conversions drop, and you don't have the rest of the keyword landscape to help make up in conversion volume. And so I think the shift now, and kind of what David had identified, was instead of pushing all links to these really 5 pages, let's spread the link budget out to these other pages that have conversion potential. And that will give the account an overall lift, because if we can get like 5 conversions from here, 10 conversions from here across maybe now 50 different articles, that should be able to lift the overall volume of conversions up.
But their total conversions a month from our content had dipped, right? So it must have dipped because these other, like, not the top 5 or whatever obvious keywords, those had dipped because we're spending all of our link
We're
building
just not building,
resources on.
we're not building links to those pages. And so they're either sitting on the top of page 1, or sorry, the bottom of page 1 or top of page 2. And they don't need that many links to go to them to move them up, but we're focusing on those other pages. And so basically what we did is a couple of things happened. So those key pages started to rank in position 1, and we were still building links to them, thinking that we needed to like defend them essentially. But then we kind of made a decision, all of us, including the client, that we're going to stop building links to those pages. They're already in those top 3 positions, and let's use that entire link budget to now go to these other pages. And so I think that's what David helped identify, is then looking at that the conversion spreadsheet. What has converted previously that's now not ranking in those top spots, and can we just push link budget to these key pages? And from doing that over the last 6 months, now we've started to build that conversion volume back up.
I think too, it's also the benefit of the spreadsheet is it kind of tells you when you can't do anything more, because we can now say to this client, we can be like, hey, because this particular client, more than I've seen across other clients, has like really volatile conversions. Like they'll be ranking for the keyword in position 1 in 1 month and get 10, and then the next month get 0, but they haven't lost anything, not even a secondary keyword. They just haven't lost anything. But now I can tell them with very like a lot of confidence, like, hey, listen, this URL didn't bring anything in this month. That's why we're down. It's still number 1 for its main keyword. It's still number 1, 2, 3 for all its secondary keywords. We're not going to give it a link. Like, it's fine. Like, it didn't perform this month. Who knows why? But nothing we can control metric wise shows us there's any problem with it. Therefore, let's not treat it with like there's a problem, because there isn't one. It just didn't convert this month.
I think that's so really important too, just for like client expectations, and just
yeah, and they get it.
Explaining what's wrong, because I feel like if you didn't come armed with that data, you see a drop in conversions, let's say January to February, and then like you do the typical agency thing where you're like, oh, it's seasonality, or oh, it's like a holiday this month or something, and conversion, it's like, it's never a good explanation as to why. But yeah, there's always going to be natural fluctuation from month to month, whether it's traffic or conversions. And yeah, I agree with you. It's weird because that account has a piece that'll get 11 conversions 1 month, and then that same piece ranking in the same place will get 0 the next month. And it's like, how do you explain that? There's nothing to really explain other than, look, the ranking hasn't changed. Like nothing's changed to the conversion potential of the piece other than it just didn't get conversions that month. And so having that data to explain that, I think, is really important, just to show them like, look, nothing's changed here. We just need to stay the course, and let's just focus on other pieces that could potentially convert in the meantime from a link building perspective.
Yeah.
David, so what we're talking about here is like, you have to spend days creating this spreadsheet with granular data of conversions every month across 20 to 30 months for hundreds of pieces, double checked that data. Then what we didn't even talk about is, how the hell are you even figuring out what secondary keywords it ranked for? So you're going into Ahrefs for every single one of these like hundreds of URLs and being like, historically, in addition to the target keyword, what other keywords did it happen to be ranking for across 20 to 30 months worth of time for hundreds of URLs. So the question to pose here for us to discuss is this worth it? Or should we consider our service to these clients as we do this initial work of getting you these pieces that rank for all these ridiculously valuable buying keywords that bring you business, that bring you customers. And then either if you want us to do long-term, multi-year maintenance, SEO maintenance, that's like more almost like, yeah, anyway, you either pay us an additional maintenance fee or you do it yourself or whatever. And the Grow and Convert service is producing the new articles that get those rankings in the first place. Obviously, again, to fast forward, we did not choose this route, but I think that's a discussion worth having on this show because that's what this is for.
I'm interested to hear your opinion. I have a very strong one on this, I think.
Well, we've kind of, I mean, we've changed our approach since we started doing
Yeah.
this. When I first did this, I didn't even, I didn't even stop to think. It's like I feel like a scientist. Like, should I do this? I just did it. It just seemed like I'm just gonna do this because the account is down. And then you just do it, and then like 8 months go by, and it's like I am tired, and but we just did it.
Yeah,
Also,
what were the most frustrating points? Because we've had conversations where you were really frustrated and you were just like, this is too much. Because in addition, what we're also talking about that I didn't even mention is you're still doing the 3 new articles a month. And then in
Well,
addition, now you're optimizing.
He
What I
was.
talked about is all the work just to do the analysis. Then when you do the analysis and you're like, well, there's all these pieces we got to optimize for XYZ thing, then you got to do that optimization, which you said earlier in this episode that some of them are almost full rewrites. And you were just
yeah.
doing that on top of the regular work.
I think mistakes were made along the way. I don't
What
think
is
that
it?
I don't think
Yeah, because it has
we
changed.
do
Because
the
now
same
we
thing anymore.
we
Yeah.
do present it more of like I mean, it depends. There's no hard fast rule here. The biggest frustration, Davis, was always me trying to figure out, is this worth taking place a new article? That was the biggest frustration. Financially for me, financially for the writer, financially for the client, financially for us, is it worth like, okay, we're going to change our engagement this month to target these things. That's kind of what it became. Is like we had a few months recently where it's like, hey, we found these X amount of opportunities. We're going to focus on these instead of new content for this month in lieu of new content. And that's kind of the happier ground that we're at now. Um, that being said, the question could come from a client like, well, what about like the smaller content updates that are not full rewrites that take, you
I
could say
think the
like,
worry was that the client was if we pitch just doing an update in lieu of the 3 pieces, that the client is going to feel like we're taking advantage of them because instead of writing a full new article, we're just updating the pieces. And so there was this balance of how much effort needs to be put into the update for it to warrant taking place of a full new article. And there was just all these unknowns that we didn't really know in the beginning, like even just pitching it to the client for the first time and getting them on board. It was challenging.
yeah. And that's why I speak now when I speak to clients, what I really change how I talk about it, in case you haven't noticed, is like really making it more keyword focused. Like we found this new keyword. We want this keyword. Here's a strategy we think is the best way to get it. It could be a new article or it could be rewrite of an existing article. And like keeping that the focus. And that seems to work well because like, yeah, we want that keyword too.
Yeah. So in terms of mistakes that were made, in the very beginning, the mistakes that were made were just over promising. Like, again, I feel like we felt nervous about having updates take the place of new articles and just were unsure whether clients would even be comfortable just having an engagement of updating posts versus doing new ones. I mean, to fast forward, we have learned that clients are very open to that because I think just taking a step back and looking at the overall engagement, the goal is the same, which is do whatever we can to increase the amount of conversions that are coming from content. And there's multiple ways to do that now. There's new pieces, there's updating existing pieces. But I think when we first started doing this, we felt like we just had to do new pieces because we have kind of this productized service where there's set deliverables every month. And so now the service has kind of evolved to keep the account and then to keep growing their conversions to a combination of updating and new pieces for those accounts that are further along. And I think it's just on a client by client basis so far, just how much updating takes place and how many new pieces take place. And yeah.
Yeah, and David, but to your point though, like I think by definition, at this point, if we do this with a client, like so say we have a client, and I would recommend that any strategist, any new account, you start doing this from day one. It makes your life easier. But if we do this with a client, like when we did this for client A and client B, they are by definition getting more work from us today than they were a year ago. Like they just are.
Why? Because you said sometimes we're just replacing a new piece with one of these updates. Basically, replacing a new piece with one of the updates is our way of doing the equivalent of like some large digital agency that like that kind of like what is it, nickels and dimes their clients, right? Anything they do or they charge by hour. That's our equivalent of making sure we're not getting hosed from because we have a fixed cost engagement, and if we're doing a bunch more work, then that
Even, okay, so
hurts.
even if you want to nickel and dime it, even from a reporting standpoint, if you're reporting on 3 articles or 95, if you're
Yeah,
reporting on a conversion by
that's a good
article
point.
breakdown by 95 articles, you're just by definition doing more.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is but at the when as the engagement grows, you're actually just doing a lot more because you have this huge.
Because you can't just keep with like, oh, good, we have these 5 top converting posts. That will only get you so far, as we keep finding out. That will only get you so far. The other ones have to lift, and then your new content has to also lift. And then figuring out from a strategist point of view how to, because also one thing I do, we didn't quite touch on it here, is I also think in terms, I used to always think in terms of when an article's dropped or performance is sinking a little bit, build a link. Now I think in terms of, can I hop in there for 1 hour, do some content edits, look at the Serp, see what's changed, hit save, call it done, save my link for a different article that I want to build to. I do that a lot with these clients in the past like 3 months. While we'll be in position one, we're in position five. I hop in the Serp, I see who beat us. I think I know why they beat us. I beat them. I hit save, it's done with, and it saves me a link to use elsewhere. So that's also a lot of like just
Yeah.
Oh,
It,
interesting. You're
it, it
saying
is it
you're
is
seeing the
challenging.
equivalent of content update versus additional link, that you can basically make an update, and you've seen that work, that
oh
you
for
make
sure.
that
I
update.
can give a very
Recently,
specific example, but yeah, for sure.
yeah, recently, I think on the last call you had an example of that.
How quickly did that one move
Eight
up? You
hours.
made it. You made
8 hours.
an
8 hours.
8 hours. It
Yeah,
moved up
it's
from 5 to 1.
'Cause I have the benefit of being in a different time zone than you guys. So I did at the start of my day, and then the end of my day, start of your day, I checked again in private, and then I had my brother check in private in his time zone, and it went back to number one. And I was like, that's an amazing day. We just went from like 5 to 1 in like a 9 hour time frame, 8 hour time frame.
There. You heard it here. You can make the SERP. You can go from position. You can jump up 5 positions in 8 hours. David has said it. Please contact him if your results are there.
I have the screenshots I can show people. But I was very happy for that day. But no, but so like but that is a huge win though because it used to be, correct me if I'm wrong, like it's kind of our go-to response, like don't touch the content, build a link, and that strategy is just not sustainable when you have 60 URLs that want links. It's just
yeah,
not, unless
and
we're
it
just going
just
to increase
takes
the
more
link
time
budget.
too.
And even you can't
Yeah, I
increase the
mean,
link budget because eventually you run out of avenues of where to get links from. But it starts to become like you need to, as a strategist, okay, I'm going to do a quick content update here. And then if it makes sense, that's one thing too. Also, I want to do a better job of for future clients going down this road is like making sure that we'll never update for update's sake. Like I have to see a potential to give us a competitive edge or something that we're lacking that we can improve on, not just go in there, jump around, add some,
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
in
that's
that.
actually important because so many people do that where they just
well,
they update for
makes content
updating's
so much
sake. Like
worse. Yeah.
like every month on the same day, they'll just update a few words in their article, and you're saying that's not that valuable. It's really I'm looking at the SERP to see if something's fundamentally changed about the intent of it, and then it's modifying the piece to better match that. And I
What
think
did you
that's
see
right.
in that 8 hour example? And just to be clear, I was obviously joking earlier. Like, don't no one should expect that. That's kind of hilarious. What did you see when you said I had a hypothesis of why we were losing?
It was, I can give you like,
Is this the app? Is this the
yeah,
app
yeah, I'll
example?
just go with that. It's
Yeah.
basically, it's like how prevalent is the app and the app specific keyword. So if you're looking for like weight loss tracking app, versus say you have a weight loss tracking software and you have weight loss tracking app, and say you have two URLs, which we would normally do two URLs for that if it's a different enough SERP. And then how prevalent is the app store and app landing pages in the SERP? So the question then becomes like, how prevalent does app specific solutions need to be in the post? And it's just some very straightforward like SEO 101 on page SEO stuff that you can do. But that was basically it. Was
Yeah, there were no App Store links in the piece, right? Before. And
Yeah, so you want
then
me to get like you want me to
adding
sort
the,
of reveal the entire magic show? Okay, yeah. So like it was before like there's like so we would link to our clients, the call to action links to the software. But when I was like, like we're losing to these app store links. So what if I just put the app store links in the post and then change like the header to like hey, find the app links here. And then by doing that, it went above the app store links.
yeah.
Like
Well, I think the subtlety
yeah.
in the
Did
intent is
Yeah. Intro changes too. Intro does change too. That's what I mean. And I have down here for biggest frustration, it's hard to do light edits because you go into a piece and you're like, I'm just going to put some App Store links in there. I'm like, oh, well, that doesn't really make sense with the intro. It's all software specific. So I'm going to kind of retinkle with the intro because now you really want to call to that app intent, right? So like when you're looking for an app to lose weight with, you want to find one on your available. So like it changes. Okay, you change the intro, which changes the table of contents. Okay, well hold on, the first header kind of changes. So it all goes into that. But that specific example of what I saw a change within 8 to 9 hours, it was very much changing the SEO elements of the post to target the app and to include links to the App Store and the Google Play Store predominantly throughout the post.
yeah, I noticed that a couple of years ago that when we used to go after software and app keywords, the SERP similarity was like very similar. And then I think in the last year or two, Google started noticing the difference between app and software. To me, software means desktop app. If someone's searching for software, they're looking for some desktop version of an app, whereas app was very specific to the mobile version. So in this case, the client had an Android and iOS version of their software, and so including the download links for iOS and Android were important in the app query because it better matched the intent of what someone was looking for.
And this can get as detailed as changing the reviews we highlight to be app specific reviews, changing the screenshots we use to be app specific screenshots. Another example from a different client was Google also does this kind of stuff with the word software and system. Some SERPs are very different, a software and a system, and some SERPs they become like synonyms, the same word. So if you see that like in a SERP, that would be like, ooh, we targeted system, but software is super relevant in this SERP. Let's do some tweaks here to hit that software intent, and that can give you a nice boost.
Do you guys think that these two clients truly understand and appreciate the amount of work that is happening in the background here?
I just want to hear David's response first.
Well, I think I'm
I mean, the
honestly,
fact that you laughed at that question already tells you
I think
something.
he's laughing at
Well,
my response. Not much of a response, but no,
I'm just predicting his response, but my
I
guess is going to be client A, not so much. Client B,
no, no,
a
no.
lot
I
more.
I
No.
think I think client A is like when you have your first kid.
You guys realize our clients, some of which
No, no,
are,
no,
listen
no.
to these and have said, "Hey, nice episode." So
Yeah, I
we just got
know.
to really make sure they're not being able to identify
No,
who they are.
it's not that. But it's like to me, client A is like I always hear this for myself. I don't know if this is true or not, but my parents always say I was lucky being the third child because the first kid you mess up the most on. And like client A, everything that is a struggle with client A is because I didn't roll it out correctly because we didn't know what we were
Yeah,
doing.
exactly.
So,
It
but I think
it
now that
was what
we've
I
had
said
some like,
earlier.
yeah,
The
we've
making
had some
mistakes.
conversations with them, and we were like, "Here's what this is. Here's what's going on," and now they're starting to. It changes the conversation and the mood a bit. Yeah,
It was the expectation setting on our end that we didn't do well that I think led to problems down the road just in communicating the value of doing the updating and just like the more work and all that kind of stuff. Like we overpromised in those first few months, not realizing how much more work we were putting on ourselves. And then like a few months down the line, just getting frustrated with ourselves of like, damn, this is way more work than we anticipated. But I think because of that, going into that second updating engagement with that second client, we knew exactly how much time it was going to take, and we did better job communicating the value and then not over promising deliverables.
Yeah, because
And
that's
so I think,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I agree. And it's hard to know, and that was a frustrating part on my end because it's hard. Like, I'm a full-time writer. I've been doing this kind of writing for a long time, and I can think the way a writer thinks, but it's difficult for me to look at a piece, look at a keyword I need to rank for, and say to myself, it's going to take 3 hours. That's just really difficult to do. Or it's going to take 2 hours. I can't do that. I can give a guess, and then I get into a post, and then in the writing and re-optimizations, it will take 6 hours or 7 hours or whatever. So yeah, I just think that so when we did 50 keywords for this client, and of course from the client side, they're like, oh cool, yeah, thanks, you guys will do them. Why are you stopping? Why won't you keep doing this kind of stuff? So
And then Benji, you said earlier you have a strong opinion.
Yeah,
Let me just say what your opinion is. Like in the bigger picture question I'm asking, I think you're on the side of this is of course very much worth it.
yeah, it extended, I would say for both clients, it probably extended the client engagement by a year, at
So
least by
dev-
doing this.
devil's
Because
advocate,
sure,
why not
is it
replace
worth it?
them with a new
Yeah,
client
because
that
you're
David is
starting from
saying you by definition have less work to do?
because you're a new client, you're starting from scratch. The trust is not built there. Here we've generated results for the client for 1 or 2 years. You have a relationship with them. The trust is there, and it's way easier to not have to learn an entirely new business and to keep going than it is to replace them with a new account. If we just look at our jobs and what we're hired to do, the job is to just make conversions and traffic go up. And so if we need to change our approach for how that happens after 2 years, I think that's warranted. It's like we didn't have a process for that a year ago. And we would get deep into these engagements and results might start to stagnate a little bit, and you're just kind of doing the same thing. And I think having David come into both of these accounts allowed us to take a step back and say, well, maybe the way that we set up our service and deliverables made sense for the first 2 years, but then the approach has to change because rankings start to slip. There's increased competition. The intents of the SERPs change. And we didn't really have a process around how to account for that 2 years into the engagement. And so I think now being able to come into this account, like these accounts, and then fix the issues and then get them to new all-time highs and have the client be happy 2, 3 years in. I mean, I think that almost just helps build more trust with the client and just, yeah, if there's hiccups down the road, know that problems can be solved and that we're not just going to throw away the engagement because our deliverables and the productized service that we offered to them in the very beginning like didn't evolve. It's just,
Yeah,
I think,
I think I agree with you. Like I feel like even if you separate the pure like selfish business interest of exactly by the numbers, what makes the most sense for us, there is almost like I don't know what to call it. Like, do I use the word moral or ethical? But it's almost like philosophically, it's like what you're saying is like this is what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? Like it's nice that like they hired us to create these articles that rank for these very valuable search terms that bring them good customers. And we did that. And then when those rankings drop down, I'm just like, of course that should be our responsibility to get them back up. And according to the churn episode, it's very advantageous if when we get a client, they stay for 5 years. In that churn episode, the numbers we walked through, imagine if we turn those numbers into 5 years the average length of the engagement. Forget it, right? Then they last forever. You acquire a client, they're good for 5 years. Like that's a good thing. But yeah, I think there's also just like this is how you get, I don't know, like this is how you build a reputation and a brand as being worthwhile. Is that I mean these clients like imagine like the kind of you know
also
I
for
do
them,
think
think about like their decision making. Okay, so they have this channel that works, like rankings start to decline. What are they going to do? Go hire another agency? And then they have to now put the trust in another agency from scratch and hope that that agency delivers on whatever their promise is? Or they're going to go hire some internal person to then try to fix what we did? Maybe they have a
From
completely
their
different,
side, it would be extremely frustrating.
they'd
And
have
these
a
clients
completely
are like
different
other
philosophy.
agencies, it's a pain to work with them. They don't do this kind of analysis. Are you kidding me?
So like, I think from both standpoints, from our standpoint and from the client standpoint, it's advantageous for us to take this approach of figuring out solutions to declining results and changing our process and changing our deliverables a bit to keep them happy. And again, I think we're still aligned on the end goal. The end goal is still increase the amount of traffic and conversions. And so like I think both engagements, I would say this work has been really successful and resurrecting the happiness of the client from like a low to a new high. And of course, now we'll probably come up with new challenges that we're going to have to face in the future, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
And one thing, I mean, we keep, because it's not like I came into these accounts a year or two into them, right? So arguably, like I'm working on another account, it's brand new. By doing what I'm doing on those accounts with this account from the beginning, it will, I think, arguably be less a bunch of new work at once. So that's a lot of the frustration is going to go away, right? Because one of the big lessons from both of those accounts and things that we could do better was look for these warning signs early on. Look for when I have, man, like 80% of my conversions are coming from 3 URLs and I have X amount of posts live. That's not okay. I don't want that to keep happening. And that kind of changes the way I view my accounts that are new going forward. So hopefully, those pain points won't be felt as strongly at year 2.
Okay, so last question, and then we can end. So you feel like even though you're saying by definition, doing this kind of work or just maintaining an account that for 3 years that has 100 pieces that we've already done and have to track the rankings and all this for is more work, you think it's still worth it? You agree with us in that respect?
Is this like a trap about my pay on the call? No, but yeah, no, it's it's just like on the record, David agreed to keep doing the same more work. No, I think it's, yeah, for sure. I'm very happy that we went down this road because, like what Benji said, and I had that conversation with myself before, and it's like it's two things. One, both of these accounts, I have a number where in my head I want to get them, and we're not there yet. Two, it's just when you keep spending more and more time with something, you don't want it to go away because you know it, you know the strategy. Like I know that spreadsheet, I built it. I feel very attached to it and to the account, into the industry they're in, because I know it well. And so, yeah, for sure. Like there's no regret, if that's the word you're going to use. It's worth it. It's worth it. And also what I've learned about SEO and content marketing, the process is also very valuable.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. You can also get the audio-only versions of these shows wherever you get your podcasts. And you can follow us at growandconvert.com/newsletter for any articles and updates for when these videos come out.